What you guys got another video on building a NAS on a budget. If you're on a super tight budget, you can use something like TrueNAS to build your own NAS. Now, whether you've got a small mini PC or whether you've got a larger PC, you can use those with TrueNAS and build your own network attached storage right at home, and you'll be able to share all your files, all your movies, Plex, all that stuff you can run on it. I'll show you exactly how to set this up. It's very simple and easy to do. Now, I'm no expert with TrueNAS, but pretty sure we can work our way through it. So let's go ahead and head over to the download section and download TrueNAS Core, and that's the latest version here. So I'm going to go ahead and download it. Once we get this downloaded, we'll be able to create our bootable image. And what we're going to do here is I've got a USB flash drive inside here, just a 32 gigabyte flash drive, and that'll be good enough for what we need here. We need to download Rufus, so let's go ahead and head over to Rufus's website. You can either use the portable version or the installation version. I'm going to go with the installation version, get that installed on the system, and we can then use this to create our bootable media with TrueNAS on it. So let's go ahead and use Rufus to create our bootable media. So I've got my USB flash drive selected here. And what we want to do here is we want to go to select and choose our ISO image that we downloaded, which is our TrueNAS. You might see this message here. I'm going to click OK here, and this will then be able to continue with the creation of it. So make sure you read all the information when you're setting up this, because obviously there's a lot of information that you need to digest. So you might have to watch this video a few times. So I'm going to set it up as GPT. And we're also doing UEFI here, and I've also got the flash drive running as FAT32. It's going to erase all the data on that drive, but once it's completed, you should have a bootable drive with TrueNAS on it, which we can then take over to our PC. In my case, I'm using a mini PC just for this tutorial, but you may want to use a bigger PC with more storage. This is really on a budget where people can use this for a little bit of light storage or maybe a Plex. So we're going to use U59. This is not the Pro version, but you can get the U59 Pro version for pretty cheap. You can see right here, 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of storage. And you do have that 11th gen processor in here. It's a Celeron processor, but for that sort of money, it's not too bad for someone who's on a tight budget. You can see the specifications right here. 11th gen N5105, which is the processor, which is 4 cores and 4 threads. It's great for office use and things like that, but you can use it for this if you wish. Now, this is what it's like inside. This is the non-pro version, but you do have room for a SSD here. We only have 8 gigabytes in this version, but you can add another 8 gigabytes to make it 16. But like I said, this is an older one, which I've had lying around, so I'm going to be using this one. But we do have a couple of slots here. Now, unfortunately, this one doesn't come with another M.2 slot inside here, so I can't add another drive in as well as the SSD that I've got here. So you can literally see we have an NVMe driver here. This is only a 512 gigabyte, but you could put a 2 terabyte in here and a 2 terabyte SSD in here as well, which will give you 4 terabytes of storage. And then obviously, if you had a model of mini PC that has one of these M.2s, you can add a drive in like this and add even more space in there as well, which will give you quite a bit of space. Now, obviously, when it comes down to redundancy and things like that, because you can't put big, large 8 terabyte drives in here, so we're going to be using this 2 terabyte SSD in here. Now, also, you could upgrade the NVMe to a 2 terabyte. Now, that's what it says the limit is on the website. But I have read articles online where people have actually put 4 terabyte SSD in here and it's worked perfectly fine. So if that is the case, I need to test it myself first. But if it does work, that means you could literally have 8 terabytes of storage in here and 4 terabytes together. And again, you can also use the USB ports to plug in extra storage if you want to as well. Now, bear in mind that we are doing this on a super tight budget with a £100 mini PC. And again, if you do have an extra PC lying around where you can put more storage in it, then that's probably going to be the best route, because you'll be able to put more hard drives in there, which means you can set up a RAID and it will be better for protection of your data. So I've got it set up here. I've got the USB here to boot into. And what we'll do is I'll plug in a few more cables, and what we'll do is we'll boot up to our BIOS. So we need to change the BIOS to our USB flash drive so we can boot to that, and basically that will allow us to install TrueNAS on our system. So that's what I'm going to do here. Once I've got this done, I can then save and exit out and start the PC up. So let's go ahead and do that. You should see something looking like this. I'm going to push enter on the keyboard, and we can then start to install our TrueNAS on this little mini PC. So let's go ahead and see what we got here. So we've got install and upgrade. So we need to do that one. So I'm going to click OK here. And you can see that I do have 4 drives on here. I did actually change and wanted to plug in another drive, which is a dock case drive, 120 gigs. And I want to run the actual operating system on that drive, and that is an actual type C connection, and it does have an SSD inside there, so I can use that to install it. And I think that's what I'm going to try, and that will give me possibly more storage inside. So it's going to erase that disk, and we're just going to say yes here to erase it because we don't need to have the data on there. So let's go ahead and click yes, and we can proceed with the installation. It's going to ask you to set up a root password. This is for you for admin privileges. So go ahead and put yourself in a pretty strong password. You don't want to use weak passwords here, especially if it's going to be on the network and you're going to be accessing your your device from the outside of your home as well. So make sure this password is pretty strong. So once you've got that, you need to confirm the password and match it. So let's go ahead and put that in. Obviously, it's taking me a bit of time because I'm using weird characters here to make it secure. And once that's done, we can then click on OK. So let's go ahead and move the cursor keys down to where it says OK and click OK here. Now we can boot via UEFI or we can boot via BIOS. If you've got an older PC, a legacy PC hardware, you can use boot via BIOS. But we've got a modern day one here, so I'm going to be booting by UEFI. And we'll just let that load up. I'll try and speed this process up so you can see it working. So it's installing the base OS here. You can see one of 3 down the bottom. It's counting down with 10, 20, 30. Has to get to 100 and we're complete. So I'll speed this process up and move on to the next bit. Now we can reboot our system and just click on reboot and click OK. And we can then continue. So what I'm going to do is I need to go back into the BIOS now because I'm using a USB with an SSD on it. I need to change this to a USB device, which is going to be this one here for that hard disk, UEFI OS dock case. And that's the one we want to make sure that we got our boot option as number 1. And we should be okay now. So we can save this and exit, and it should start to load up, as you can see here. So there we go. We're now back at this screen here. Just leave it, and it will get you to this screen after a minute or so. You should see something like this saying console setup. Once we get to this location, if I scroll down a bit here, you'll see the web user interface is at, and it gives you the address in HTTP and HTTPS. Your IP address might be different. You can now head over to your computer on the network and use that IP address and get to the menu system. You can also configure the interface if you're having issues it being recognized. You can configure that, but mine was recognized, and I'm now heading over to the PC and basically going to type this in. Now we're not typing this in on the mini PC which has TrueNAS on it. This is another computer that's on the network. So let's go ahead and type that IP address out and push enter. You will see your connection isn't private. That's fine. Click advanced and click on continue, and you will now see TrueNAS right here with our username and password. You need to put in root here. This is the root, and we need to put in the root password that we created, that long, strong password, and log in. And that's what you need to do here. So let's go ahead and click log in. And here we have our dashboard, and we're already nicely set up here. So we do need to create a storage pool and some other bits here like a user account and things like that. and you can then go into plugins and things, but we're just going to get it set up here to show you. So we're going to go into storage and then pools, and you can see there's no pools available. So click add, and we can now go ahead and create a new pool. So let's go create new pool. And this bit was a bit confusing for me at first, but basically you can check mark the drives that you wanted to do. And what you need to do is then select the little arrow and put them over to the other side. Now, I've never installed TrueNAS before, and I just muddled my way through it a little bit. So I'm pretty sure if you're following along with this video, you'll be able to do it quite easily. Now, the problem I'm going to have here is I'm not going to be able to use RAID here because obviously I don't have enough storage here. So let me give the storage a name. I'm going to call it my storage or something like that. And then we can just use this as a stripe because I don't see a JBOD option there. So I'm going to call this storage, and what we'll do is we'll select all of the drives because we want to use all of the drives here and put them across the other side. Now, if you was creating a RAID, you would obviously have numerous drives here, and you could then create a RAID for you. It will tell you down here mirror and other options available, but stripe here, and you can see here we will have no redundancy, and you can see it's warning me by saying caution, a stripe VDEV is highly discouraged and will result in data loss if it fails. That means we don't have a redundancy set up here because we don't have the storage in this little mini PC, and I've got a little small drive there. So let me confirm this, and we will create the pool and force it to create the pool here. And it should start to create a pool, but you'll get the general idea on how to set it up. Now you can see we do have our storage pool set up here, and yours will be slightly different because yours will be in a RAID format, which you should be using, because if one drive fails, all your data will be safe. Whereas if my drive fails, all the data is going to be gone. So now we need to use a user account here. So we can go in and create a user account for this particular. We can create many user accounts, but we're just going to create one here. Now we do have our root account here, which is our username root, and that's our administration count here. So what we're going to do is click add up the top, and basically once we click add, we can now go through and put our name here and create our account. So I'm going to call this, let's just say maybe full name. So I'll give it Brian, see what happens here. But me, let's try Brian. There we go. And we'll do that here. And it wants to use the username as Brian. So basically the top one, I'm going to put Britec then. And I want to use the username as Britec. And there we go. So now we can put in an email if we want to. You can put your password in that you want to use for this particular account. So this is another password for this user account. And we'll set this up and confirm it. Once that's done, we can now come down here. And when we come down here, you'll see there's some other settings here. I'm not going to go into these in this video, but basically just read through everything here. Make sure you're happy with what you've got here. You've got your permissions down here, your home directory permissions. And you can also see we do have this little section on the right here that says Microsoft account. So I'm going to click on this little question mark here and see what that says. And we can then go ahead and see whether we need to set this up. So set to allow additional username. Okay, so we want to, I'll go ahead and check mark this because it says connecting from a Windows 8 or newer operating system. So we'll check mark that. And once we've done this, I think we're pretty much good to go here. So let's go ahead and come down, and we're going to approve this now and get this set up. Now, I don't use TrueNAS myself. I use Synology. But if you're looking for a budget option, then TrueNAS is an option you can use. Now, I'm no expert with TrueNAS, and I'm pretty sure someone is shouting at the screen right now saying, what are you doing? Why don't you do that? Help these people out and leave some stuff in the comment section to help people along. And hopefully you'll be able to get this set up and running in no time. So we've got a username set up here, and we've also got our root set up. So let's go ahead and now come down. We do have services you can toggle on and toggle off and things like that. We have some plugins here as well, which I'm not going to go into in this video. I'm trying to just show you how to get it up and running. And there's some more in-depth stuff that we could probably do with this at a later date. So what we need to do now is go to sharing here and put in our sharing path. So let's go ahead and we'll create our sharing path here for our data, and we can then share that. So I'm going to click this little bottom one here, and you can see I've got my storage, which we set up a little bit earlier, and you can give it a name if you wish right here, if you want to call it, say, TrueNAS or whatever you want to call it, or my shares or whatever you want to call it, my storage. But I've already got the word my storage, so I'll probably change this to something a little bit more recognizable. So let me put TrueNAS storage or something like that. So let's go ahead and put that in. It doesn't really matter because I won't really be using this for anything really. Otherwise I'd never run this on a, on a JBOD or a Stripe setup, because you won't have any redundancy, as I've mentioned already. Now there's some settings here which I'm not too sure on what to set. So I'm going to set up this private SMB data set and shares. And you've got some other ones here, so you can read up on these a little bit. So I'm going to select this one for now. I don't know whether this is the correct one to set, but we'll go with that one and we'll see whether it works properly. So we've now got description here. You can give this some sort of description if you want to, so make it more recognizable. I should imagine it's advisable because there'll be tons of stuff you're going to be adding to this and you want things to be more recognizable. So let's submit this and enable this service. And there we go. And you should see now the SMB service has been enabled, and there is our the actual shares that we've just created for us under the Windows Shares SMB setup. So that's good. That's easy enough. So let's see if we can access this on this network now. So we're going to go up to the top here and we'll try and create a mapped network drive and see whether that works out and see whether we've done everything okay. So let's go up to the three dots on this PC and we can go map network drive and we can give it a drive letter. So we'll just leave that as is. And we can now go browse, and there straight away you can see our TrueNAS. And if I click on this, it will ask us for our Windows security. So we need to put in our password and our username. So let's go ahead and put that in. So the username was Britec that I set up, and that password for it. You don't need to put the root one inside here. This is for your account that you just created to log in. So let's just remember these details and click OK. And hopefully that should show us the, there we go. It's showing us now. So I can click on this and click OK. And we can now click finish, as we've now created our mapped drive, and we've got storage access right here, which we can drop files in and it will be stored on that drive, and we can share this across the local network, which is quite useful. So there we go. So now we've got some sort of storage going. Let's put a file inside here to see whether it works. I'm pretty sure it does, but let's go ahead and give that a try anyway. So you can see the icon there. So I'm going to go ahead and get a file and we'll copy it to that directory. So let me just copy one of these little video files here, and I'll just copy this and we'll put that up onto our newly created storage. So let's go ahead and paste it into that directory. There we go. And you could put folders in here if you want to organize it more, but I'm just seeing that it works perfectly fine. There we go. And that went up really pretty quick. And there's your dashboard right there. You can add and take away stuff from the dashboard that you want to do. And again, this is just a basic video, and you can go through here in more detail. There's plenty of videos on YouTube that you can look at doing all sorts of stuff with TrueNAS. And I'll try and cover some of it if you want to see that stuff. Let me know in the comment section below whether this sort of stuff interests you or not. If it doesn't, then I probably won't make it anymore. But if you do like to see more stuff on this, then let me know and I'll do my best to make those videos for you. So that is it. So you got the permissions here for that data set and path that we created, and you can make changes here if you want to, but that's pretty much it. We're pretty much good to go. Now, of course, you've got your plugin section where you can add your plugins like Plex and things like that and run Plex from here. That's another video for another day, but that is basically it. So I hope this video has been some sort of use to you. If you've got an older PC lying around, maybe an old Dell Optiplex, you can put some drives in it and create yourself your own network attached storage using TrueNAS. My name has been Brian from briteccomputers.co.uk. Quick shout out to my YouTube members. I appreciate the support, and I'll catch you in the next video. Have a lovely day. Bye for now.